Last year, for the first time, I declared August to be Topiary month, and I'm doing that again this year. Now, why? Well, for two different reasons. It is so brutally hot outside. I don't want to be outside gardening, and I would much prefer to be indoors in the air conditioning playing with my topiary. The second reason is because kind of counterintuitively, especially the Myrtle topiary, does really, really well in the heat. Now, not all does, but my favorite form of topiary, Myrtle communis compacta, it does great in the heat. So I can leave it outdoors and then bring it in to shear it, to style it, to place it, to use on a tablescape or whatever I want. So because of that, I have just kind of self-declared August to be topiary month. Now let's distinguish a little bit and I guess maybe prevent some of the confusion about this plant form of topiary. It is not crepe myrtle, and it is not the larger leaved hardy myrtle shrubs that we see in others' landscapes. This is a dwarf myrtle, Myrtle communis compacta. That's kind of hard to say. It is not frost hardy, so you do have to bring it in the winter, though it's hardy down to zone 8. So it would make a great landscaping plant if you are in zone 8 or higher. I definitely, especially because it can tolerate high heat and high light so easily, I would definitely recommend it as a landscape in-ground planting for those of you who can grow it. Me, I prefer to grow it as tabletop topiary. I think I first became fascinated with it when I read a magazine article on Bunny Mellon, who was Jackie O's best friend and who also designed the rose garden. And she had a whole greenhouse filled with it. I don't have that many, but I have enough to keep me busy, I promise. And a lot of times I highlight it on my Instagram feed, so you can go over there. And also I have certain accounts on Instagram that I just love. My friend Loy can stage and grow topiary like no one I know, so you'll want to check out both of those. Stuart, let's make sure that we put up a link for others to follow those feeds. So here is kind of an assortment of mine. This week, I've been giving them a lot of TLC. I've been pruning them so that they have really tight form, like this traditional standard myrtle. Now, what is a standard? A standard is basically just a ball on a stem. You can also have different kinds like this one here. And by the way, these I started from tiny little cuttings that my friend Monica and I started, and many of these have been grown from cuttings, though some of them I bought already shaped in a standard form. But it's not that difficult to do. I'm not going to talk about it today, but we'll put up a link to how you can do Myrtle topiary starts. This one is a poodle triple ball form, which is also it's also called a poodle form, which is really common. I've started to do more interesting shapes just because I like the contrast in how one shape looks. I think kind of juxtaposed and compared with the other shapes. So I'm starting some more that are just ball shapes. I really love the way those look. I am experimenting with growing some on a grid in kind of an espalier tic-tac-toe form. And then last year, I was really, really fascinated with these very tall, slender conical forms. I've got 2 of these, and I'm just clipping them into that form and trying to accelerate their growth and accentuate their shape. Now, in some cases, I've also done this, and I've put 3 in one large container to kind of get like a little topiary forest, which is kind of fun. But there's no right or wrong answer. You can just shape them in any form you want. There's no making a mistake. If you trim them harder than you want, it will grow out. I've got another one somewhere. Here it is over here. And it's just kind of a free form, and I'm waiting to be inspired. This may be something that I prune into a multiple ball cloud shape. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it. But the point being They are amenable to all sorts of clipping, and you can just, I guess, just follow your heart. Just clip them in any shape you find magical. I typically like the ones that are far more just architectural and geometric. I'm not going to do poodles or dogs or roosters or anything like that, but just, you know, just clip them to your heart's content. We have a whole playlist, you guys, on topiary. We talk a lot about different aspects of the hobby of topiary and different ways you can use them and style them and grow them. So check out that playlist. But I did want to make a distinction in case there was some confusion, because it's a question I get a lot, between the in-ground frost hardy types like crepe myrtles and myrtle shrubs and then this dwarf variety. So now what am I doing in terms of TLC to kind of show these guys some extra love? Well, let's go to that part in the next section. Well, just like in my family when I was growing up, everybody gets a haircut at the same time. So I have given most of the other family members their trim, and now I'm going to work on this one. And this is I'm just trying to establish a spherical globular form. I just want it to ultimately be round. But before I start clipping, a couple of different things. Number one, you don't need any special scissors or tools to do this. I usually just use regular scissors. If I'm doing something really exacting, I'll pull out my joist chin, but these are just fine. Any kind of regular sharp scissors will do. Secondly, when growing this kind of dwarf myrtle, I cannot say this enough, these can last a very long time. I have had some of these for years, but I have killed my fair share of them. If you kill them, please don't beat yourself up. That just happens. And usually the culprit is because they dry out. So here is my important point to all of this. Never, never, ever, 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 ever let them dry out. You cannot overwater these guys, but you can definitely underwater them. So if I'm ever going to go on vacation, whether I'm keeping them outside or I'm keeping them inside, typically what I do is I put them either in a great big tray or a baby pool or something that has a lip on it, a large saucer, and I just fill that saucer up with water. You cannot overwater these guys. They just are extremely, extremely thirsty. But if they ever dry out completely, they're goners. You can't resurrect them. You can't cut them back hard and expect them to put out some new leafy growth. They are just goners. So if I didn't emphasize it enough, let me emphasize it again. Never let them dry out. Now, sometimes that can be a problem because the way that we like to style our topiaries is we like to have a rather large plant, sometimes in a smaller pot, and a smaller pot like this one is going to dry out faster. And that's why you often want to set them in a reservoir of water of some kind. And I don't care if they get too much water, it's not really going to hurt them. And the secondary benefit of that is by leaving them in water, especially if it's outside and it's really hot and humid, then they will develop on the pot itself just a wonderful kind of patina where it starts growing moss and you get that kind of chalky growth on the outside of the pots, which I love and which I think adds to the allure of topiary in general. A lot of times if you buy them from an expensive florist or an expensive source, they will be in some kind of container, typically in like this Italian clay or a regular terracotta, and the pots will be beautifully, like this one here, Stuart, it'll be beautifully modeled and aged and absolutely gorgeous, and you pay extra for that. So that's another benefit to putting them in a standing basin of water of some kind. Okay, so now back to my clipping. I've just got some regular old dollar shears from the dollar store, and I am just going to just start clipping it in a circular fashion. In fact, Stuart, what was it? Was it in August? I did an article, not August, June? Yeah. But I did one for Garden Gate magazine. I can't remember now. They all kind of run together. And I've done workshops, online workshops and things. about topiary because it's tremendously popular right now, and it's kind of gotten a bum rap, I think, because we see it in so many high-end magazines like Architectural Digest, Veranda. We see it in so many high-end magazines that we sometimes think that it's expensive. Now, these myrtles, this compacta myrtle, if you buy one already formed, yes, it can be expensive. Just consider it an investment planting, because if you take care of it, you can have it for years. But there are so many different kinds of topiary that I've showed you all in the past and that I will show you during Topiary Month in August, of all sorts of inexpensive plant medium that you can use to grow topiary. So it doesn't have to be expensive. But if you're like me and you just get seduced by this compact myrtle, notice that it has a little barber's apron on to catch the clippings. And typically I always have some kind of tarp underneath. I say always, but a lot of times I'm clipping these just on the fly with my coffee cup in hand, and then I just will blow off whatever is captured at the base of the plant. Okay, Matt, I've got another guy here today. Matt is helping out, and they're both laughing at me now, aren't you? Okay, so I am, and then obviously you want to look at it from the base, look at it from here. It's still got more of a, maybe a gumdrop. It's still a little bit too vertical, but it will slowly but surely, it will grow out on the sides so that I get kind of a round shape. Okay. This is what I mean. You just kind of blow it, and those small leaves will move. Now, once I get it into place wherever it's going to live in my design, then I might clip it a little bit more, because I might see stragglers. Just like when you get a haircut, I might see stragglers I didn't see earlier, and that's fine. You can do this, you guys. You can clip them as frequently as you want. The more you clip, the denser the canopy will be, or the ball will be, or the growth will be. And it's one of the reasons that these are still kind of spindly, because I let them put on vertical growth, and I wanted to establish their shape, and now I'm establishing kind of density and thickness in these real tall conical ones. So that is how you clip them. It's very, very easy. You can't make a mistake. If you do, it will grow out, so don't get hung up on that. But just play with different kinds of geometric forms. It's really, really fun. When I feed them, typically honestly, I just use whatever is available and whatever is easiest. Don't overthink it. If I'm watering them a lot this time of year because I want them to put on rapid growth, because this is their rapidly growing time of year in August, and actually during the growing season in summer in general, then I water them pretty frequently, at least once a week, sometimes even more frequently than that. And if I do it more frequently than that, then I will dilute the mixture even more, so I'm not overfeeding it. But I'll use anything that I have. It might be as long as it's a balanced fertilizer, usually like a 444 or whatever. That might be in a Spoma organic liquid. It might be some other kind of liquid organic. It might just be Miracle Grow, because these aren't in the ground. These are in pots, and I really don't care. So I'm just using whatever I can grab, whatever is easiest. But now, especially because they're going to look great in August and September, I'm really going into a pretty heavy feeding mode, and I want them to put on as much growth in both girth and in height as I can get them to put on before they're going to be going in for the holiday season and when it starts getting cold outside. When you bring them in, you want to make sure that you give them really, really bright light, hold back then on the feeding. So if you bring them in, typically mine come in October. If you bring them in, hold back on the feeding. You can give them one more haircut, but just make sure when you do bring them in that you give them lots of light, continue to give them lots of water, and just keep an eye on them for spider mites and things like that. If they start to defoliate in the wintertime, if they start losing a lot of leaves, as long as you keep them alive, don't worry about it, because as soon as you put them out in the spring and they get that full sun and you give them a feed, they will come back, flesh out, and flush out beautifully. So now let's talk a little bit more about care and staging. Now, a couple of things that you'll need are some strong, straight stakes. Now, you can use something like a wooden dowel or even a chopstick or something. A lot of times what I'll do is take some of the really straight volunteer shoots that are coming up out of my viburnum or sometimes even my nandina, whatever, and as long as it's a strong, straight stick, I can use it. That way I don't even have to go out and buy anything. I can harvest some of these and I'll have them on hand to use. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I will just secure whatever the topiary form is, like for example this one, which is already growing straight and tall and I don't need to support it in any way. But if I did, I would just put a stake right at the root zone and at the base, and then I would secure it with something like a piece of twine or one of these little tiny clips to get it to grow straight and tall. You can get these on Amazon. And Stuart, would you remind me, and we will put a link to these tiny little, they're like claw clips. So that is one thing you'll need, along with something to secure it to the stake. Now, in terms of styling, this is the funnest part. First of all, there is no centerpiece that is easier, I think, more elegant, more sophisticated, and more unusual than just having a beautiful topiary as a centerpiece. And this is brought to mind here recently because I'm getting ready to do a wedding shower for someone on August 6th. We're going to have things set up in a number of different venues in and around my house. And so I thought in this area, they're going to do some put together bouquets. There's going to be lots of buckets of flowers and things like that. I still want to have something to make a statement and be a centerpiece in the middle of this table. So as kind of a counterpoint to all of the flowers, I can have a topiary here and it looks great. If you're dining, if you are having a dinner party on any kind of table, a large rectangular table like this one or a small circular table, all you need is one topiary and 2 candlesticks and voila, you have something that looks pretty amazing. Especially if you go that one step further and you top dress it or mulch it in something that is really seasonal or speaks to the rest of your tablescape. And here's a couple of ideas. Now, let me back up just a minute because I know somebody is going to ask, why do you have all of your topiaries and my container plantings outside top dressed in gravel? So let's say it together. Because it keeps squirrels out, it keeps moisture in, and I just love the Mediterranean vibe and the Mediterranean aesthetic of it. Now, typically out in my garden, I just have an earthy gravel. It's nature, I believe it's Naturescapes. I get it by the bag from Lowe's. But you can also get different kinds of really cool, more contemporary colors of gravel. You can get small black gravel, you can get white gravel, and it really just kind of depends on what you're trying to communicate aesthetically for whatever the scene is in your garden or on your table. Now, some other things that I have used in the past quite frequently, and especially around the holidays, are things like these tiny little blue atlas cedar pine cones. Stuart, you and I have been collecting them. Every time I find one, it's like a little treasure. And now I have a whole takeout container box filled with them. So over the holidays, when I want to have a table setting or I just want to adorn my house in one way or another with my topiaries, then I can put down some kind of protective covering over the gravel, like saran wrap or something, and then I can just take these tiny pine cones and sprinkle them over the surface of all of my topiaries, and that makes them elevated and a lot more seasonal. I could sprinkle in some red berries, I could have some tiny little clippings of holly, I could do things like that. Now these are tiny little pine cones, but I think it would be so much fun to have the tiny little pine cones on one topiary, have a larger, slightly larger type of pine cone on another topiary, and then to complete my trio and complete my threesome, then have some larger pine cones and a different kind of pine cone on that third one. So think in threes and think in 3 different types of one thing. Likewise, this is something else. I did this for a holiday party for a friend of mine at Christmas, and it was all citrus thematic. So everything was in blue, green, and orange, but it was around Christmas time. And citrus, of course, is a winter seasonal fruit. So we had large topiaries, and in each one we had a mulch of different kinds of citrus, and it was all citrus fruit. So in the large topiaries, we had large oranges like this. In the mid-sized topiary, we had clementines and tangerines. And then in the small topiary, we had tiny little kumquats. So they were all orange. They all fit that citrusy theme, but it was really fun because they all spoke kind of the same language, and we were able to seasonally top dress them in a similar but still a different, unique way. Likewise, it's fun to use things like key limes, kiwi fruit, anything that matches the aesthetic of the tablescape that you're trying to create. Now, I did this once, and I thought maybe I was a little bit crazy to do it. For a different type of party, I top dressed my topiary. Again, I put down some saran wrap, and then I top dressed all of the topiary with different kinds of beans. It was, I think we were having some kind of 3-bean soup party or something like that with cornbread and salad, and it was a different kind of seasonal stew that had different kinds of beans in it. So I top dressed every one of the topiaries in a different kind of dried bean. One was in black beans, one was in pinto beans, and one was in kidney beans. It was a really fun thing to do that kind of spoke to the occasion. I thought that was kind of a weird thing to do at the time, but then I went to a really high-end bed and breakfast on St. Michael's Island, and at Christmas time they had done the same thing. You just want to make sure that before you water them, you remove those beans, water the plant, and then you can put them back in place if you want to. Otherwise, those beans will probably germinate. And you'll have little bean plants coming out of your topiary. So that's just a couple of really fun ways to style them based on whatever the tablescape is that you're doing, how you're entertaining, what season it is. Think tiny little miniature pumpkins, miniature gourds. You could use in one, you could do dried nuts in the shell. One could have walnuts, one could have pecans, one could have peanuts or hazelnuts, something like that. Just let your imagination go crazy just using these Myrtle topiary as kind of the foundation for your inspiration and as your muse. So that's just kind of some of the myriad of ways that you can use these wonderful Myrtle Communis Compacta, and that leads me to something really special. Stuart, are you paying attention? Okay, pay attention, because my question of the day is this: would you love to get one of these Myrtle topiary for free? And if you do, then definitely participate in one of our Linda Vater members lives, because it's going to be exclusive to members only. Stuart, we need to put up a little video or a prompt on how you can join, because we're going to be giving away one of these amazing topiaries from Passiflora Kalamazoo to one of you lucky winners out there. And that also answers another question you probably have: where can you find these already made and ready to go? And that would be contacting my friend Angie at Passiflora Kalamazoo. We will put a link You can also get them from New York City Topiary in New York City. You can find them, if you can get there, you can find them at Atlock Farms. You can sometimes find them at your better florists and some of your better nurseries. But I'm not gonna lie, they're a little bit hard to find. They are not inexpensive. They are well worth it, and they're well worth your time in trying to hunt one down. So there you go, pretty much everything I think you need to know about growing this amazing topiary form. Make sure to become a member so that you can participate in the giveaway, and shoot any questions you've got in the comments below. Well, if you've held on this long, here is my very steamy outfit of the day. My reading glasses, which I think are so cute. I've showed you guys these before. They come in a 3-pack, I think for like $15. And Stuart, we need to make sure that we put a link. Yeah, Stuart likes them too. My top I bought online someplace. I'm not sure, but we'll try to find the link. And my breeches, I think, are just, my shorts are from Target from a long...
like the cutoff ones, but just not cut off.
Yeah, a long time ago. And my sandals are from H&M, and they're just easy slide in. Let's see, oh, my earrings. My earrings I got at a jewelry store, just an independent jewelry store here in town. I don't even remember which one. So I can't remember a lot today about this outfit of the day, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway.